In today's video, we're covering Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX. Will Sam Bankman-Fried go to prison? My assessment is, hell yeah, he's gonna go to prison. My prediction is that he's gonna get locked up for a very long time. It's not gonna happen overnight. It's gonna take some time for this process to play out. Until then, he's still a free man and he's probably destroying as much evidence as he can. So let's talk about all this. First, I want to say that I have never been sponsored by FTX. They reached out to me and they offered me a lot of money to promote them. They said, other YouTubers are doing it. Just do it like this, like promote us like this. I politely replied, no, thank you. And then they came back to me, they replied, and they said that they'll increase the amounts and that they would give me an offer that I could not refuse. And you know what I did? I refused. And listen, one more thing, because this is so important. I need to give credit where credit is due, because I would have totally missed the opportunity to make this video about FTX. Let me show you. I want to show you this clip, this video from Graham Stephan.
Although before we start, I want to give a huge shout out to Clear Value Tax for bringing this topic to my attention. He has a fantastic video that I'll link to down below in the description for anybody interested.
So I want to say this. Graham was kind enough to repay me the favor, and he brought this FTX situation to my attention. So huge shout out to Graham. He has a fantastic video on the FTX crypto situation, which I'll link down below for anyone interested. So thank you again, Graham. Now let's get back to Sam Bankman-Fried's journey from fake humble billionaire to future celebrity inmates. So FTX was one of the biggest crypto exchanges in the world until just a few weeks ago. It all fell apart very quickly, and I'm going to give you a very quick timeline of events. November 2nd, CoinDesk published a report about Alameda Research and FTX conducting suspicious activity. November 6th, CZ of Binance says that they're dumping their FTT tokens, and this causes a run on the banks on FTX. November 8th, CZ says that they're going to acquire FTX. November 9th, CZ says, just kidding, we changed our mind. November 11th, FTX files for bankruptcy. So long story short, there are billions of dollars of customer funds missing. Funds were used improperly, Alameda Research, and there was commingling of funds. The money was used for personal purposes. So John Ray III is an attorney and insolvency expert. Ray has now become the CEO of FTX for the bankruptcy proceedings. Ray has experience with this. He was the CEO of Enron when they were doing their liquidation events. So you know what he said about FTX? Ray said, in his 40 years of legal and restructuring experience, he has never seen such a complete failure of corporate controls and such a complete absence of trustworthy financial information. So he's basically saying that the FTX situation is a shit show. So let me tell you this. In America, it is not a crime to be a terrible CEO. So it looks like that's the defense that Sam is going to be going with, pleading ignorance. The whole, oh, I didn't know what was going on thing. So that's his best play here, because in fraud cases, you have to prove intent. He's going to go with the whole, oh, I didn't intend to steal money, I'm just stupid. But honestly, I don't know if that's really going to fool anyone. So Renato Mariotti, who is a former federal prosecutor and trial attorney, he says that with Sam Bankman-Fried, the question is whether he misled FTX customers to believe that their money was available and not being used as collateral for loans or for other purposes. The bankruptcy filings show that FTX-affiliated Alameda Research gave Sam Bankman-Fried a $1.1 billion loan. Alameda Research issued a total of $4.1 billion of loans to related parties. Legal experts are saying that FTX's use of customer money for purposes that were not clearly communicated will be the basis for fraud and embezzlements. Mariotti said, and I quote, "It sure looks like there's a chargeable fraud case here. If I represented Mr. Bankman-Fried, I would tell him that he should be very concerned about prison time." However, on a recent interview, Bankman-Fried was being optimistic. Bankman-Fried said that he's not too concerned about going to prison. He said that he's focusing on other things at the moment. I don't believe him, but that's what he said. Additionally, he's trying to throw Carolyn Ellison under the bus. Bankman-Fried is blaming Carolyn, who is the CEO of Alameda Research, and his ex-girlfriend. Bankman-Fried said that he had a lot going on at the time, and he didn't know about a lot of things, including the way that his ex was running Alameda Research. And I want you to know this. When Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scheme, so when that all unraveled, he was arrested within 24 hours. But that was different because in his case, Madoff admitted to wrongdoing on the spot. So Bankman-Fried, he is not in jail yet because he did not admit to any wrongdoing. Additionally, he's off in the Bahamas, so it's a jurisdictional headache. And at the moment, the Justice Department is putting together a case, but they're taking their time because they want to make sure that the case is airtight as possible. But this is a concern because, I mean, you can bet that Sam Bankman-Fried, he's out there right now destroying as much evidence as possible. So let's move on to who's going to go after Bankman-Fried and what's most likely going to happen to him. So the Department of Justice will most likely press criminal charges against Bankman-Fried in the US. So I'm sure that the SEC is going to go after him as well. They're already probing around the FTX collapse. Now let's compare FTX to other Ponzi schemes. Bernie Madoff was sentenced to 150 years in prison. In Madoff's case, $65 billion went missing in his Ponzi scheme, and he was convicted on multiple counts of fraud and money laundering. Another case, there was this guy named Tom Peters, and this character, he ran a $3.6 billion Ponzi scheme, and he was living a lavish lifestyle until he was convicted of various federal crimes. Peters was sentenced to 50 years in prison. So Madoff, that was $65 billion, 150 years in prison. Peters, $3.6 billion, 50 years in prison. So let's look at a case that dealt with a little bit less money, just for our reference. So Stephen Quinn lied about his $90 million cryptocurrency hedge fund, so $65 million was lost in that Ponzi scheme. He defrauded 3,500 victims, and he used that money to cover his lavish lifestyle. He pleaded guilty to securities fraud, and he was sentenced to 7.5 years in prison. So $65 million, that's child's play compared to FTX in the billions. So 7.5 years for that one. I just want to say that in my professional career, I have seen this crap go down, and it is a messy and drawn out process. So just like how I knew that I should not accept money from those jokers at FTX, I can tell you right now, in my opinion, Sam Bankman-Fried, he's going to have a lot of time to practice his basketball skills in prison. So what is the over-under on this? What is it going to be 25 years, 30 years, so over-under? And I'm not talking about this lightly. I believe that you cannot allow these people to just create these Ponzi schemes and steal money from innocent people and get away with it just because they're paying off the politicians and high-profile celebrities. So that whole humble billionaire, that image, that was a lie. The billions of dollars missing, that was not so much of a lie. So if this isn't a Ponzi scheme, then they should return the money to everyone in full. The legal community is saying that the prosecutors are going to go hard on Bankman-Fried because they want to make an example out of him. Mark Cuban said, and I quote, "Bankman-Fried should be afraid of going to jail for a long time. I talked to the guy and thought he was smart. I had no idea that he was going to take other people's money and put it to his personal use." Kevin O'Leary says, before putting Bankman-Fried in jail, he wants an audit done so that he can get his money back from FTX. O'Leary says, "It's all on the blockchain and I want my money back." In the meantime, Bankman-Fried has been going on a publicity blitz. He's been trying to show himself in the best light as possible. It's basically like an apology tour. So he's been running his mouth when he probably shouldn't be. I'm sure his attorneys are telling him to stop. Bankman-Fried, he's saying things like he unknowingly commingled funds. So you're not supposed to mix business and personal money, especially when it's not yours. But again, he's trying to play the ignorance card and show that he had no intent in order to evade fraud charges. When Bankman-Fried is prosecuted, if found guilty, his sentence will depend on the level of the offense. That will depend on the dollar value. So anything above $550 million is considered severe. The number of victims. If you're dealing with over 25 victims, the sentencing is more severe. FTX was dealing with thousands of people, so that's no bueno. So it's also going to depend on other factors as well. However, those are the bigger factors. So it is quite possible that Bankman-Fried could spend the rest of his life in prison. I hope this brings you up to speed on the SBF situation. Today's video was an educational video. The lesson learned today was do not use customer deposits to do things that you're not supposed to do. Do not create a Ponzi scheme. Do not practice negligence, and don't be a douchebag. If you abide by these principles, then your chances for success in this world will elevate exponentially. And the chances that you spend time in prison will decrease dramatically. Please subscribe. I thank you for all the support, and I wish you a very nice day.